Hi everybody! So today we are going to make a jelly roll race quilt with a twist. And we're going to use some of these. I have some jelly rolls. I have already disassembled them. I'll put a little footage of that up here. This is, I think, like half a jelly roll, and it has paint splatter, which you all know if you watch my channel, I love paint splatter and grunge and that kind of thing. I am going to use that in combination with this solid jelly roll. And by solid, I don't mean totally solid, but it's as close as I would normally get. Now, I brought up these because I know that we like to store things when we're not using them. And I thought this would be something that everybody has, and you could store your leftover jelly roll strips like this. How handy dandy is that? And if you have a paper towel roll, you could store multiples. Now, why would you want to store jelly roll strips? Well, let me show you an example. My granddaughter decided that she wanted to make a quilt for her great-grandmother because her great-grandmother made her a quilt. So I thought, you know what? A jelly roll race would be a good way to start her out. She could perfect her 1/4 inch seam and, you know, learn how to sew. With being able to take a break every now and again, and I thought, you know, that I was thinking it was a good idea. And I do agree with myself still that it's a good idea. Before I came up with how to store a jelly roll strip or a multitude of jelly roll strips, I rolled these up because she lost interest after she had sewn all these together. Had I thought of the toilet roll, I could have wrapped those up around this, or maybe even a paper towel roll. So if you get through part of your jelly roll race and you get called away for something else, you can always wrap your rolls up on that. I have cut off the selvage edge of these strips. These strips didn't have a selvage edge, but they were already trimmed off, so there is no selvage. How nice is that? Now, my idea is to make a jelly roll race, and I told you at the beginning of the video that it's going to be with a twist. My twist is adding charm squares in between putting the strips of the jelly roll together. So with a regular jelly roll race, you would put right sides together like this. What I'm going to do is I am going to add the charm square in between. And I may not just add one because I do have 2 of these charm square packs or mini charm square packs. So I don't know, I might add 2 or 3. And that I am hoping will give the quilt just a little more interest and make it unique. So let's go to the sewing machine and get started. But before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to Sharon. She was standing at the register when I went to the Busy Lady quilt shop the other day. And when I walked in, she turned around and said, "I know you, I watch you." It always makes me feel good when somebody recognizes me and I get to meet people who watch my channel. I very much appreciate you watching. And Sharon, thank you for watching, and it was nice meeting you. Okay, now we're gonna sew. Here I have my paint splatter jelly roll strip. And here I have my solid. Now I probably have 2 solid strips to every paint splatter strip. And you may wonder, when you have a pinked edge on fabric, how you are supposed to line that up with a non-pinked edge. Or maybe your pinked edge isn't quite the same. Or maybe you struggle with knowing where a 1/4 inch seam is. What I like to do is where the valley is on the edge of my fabric, I consider that the straight edge. So here, where there are dips, we're going to call those mountains and valleys. The valleys are the deepest part of the dip. That is where you start measuring a 1/4 inch in. So the valley would be the equivalent of this straight edge on the end. Now this particular mini charm square has deeper valleys than my other fabric. But I'm going to line them up so that the valleys match. And they don't line up perfectly, but they're close. So I will count a 1/4 inch seam in from the valley on the skinniest part of my strip, just to be safe. Now my mini charm squares are batiks, so I don't have to worry about which side of my batik I use. I can use either side. That can also present an issue when you're adding your next jelly roll strip. So make sure that you are pointing towards the right side of the other strip. And before you start your jelly roll race quilt, I want you to make sure that you have a fresh needle and that you've oiled your machine if necessary or needed, and that you have some bobbins already wound so that you don't have to worry about stopping for any length of time when you come to the end of the bobbin that's already in your machine. Because this is a jelly roll race, of course, we're trying to get finished as quickly as possible. So the fewer interruptions we have, the better. First thing that we are going to do is sew the short ends together. If you're not using mini charm squares, then you will just sew one strip to another strip on the short end. Now here, I have sewn 2 of my mini charm squares together. So I am going to add the 2 to the end of this jelly roll strip. And now I will pull this jelly roll strip and add something to it. And essentially, that is what I'm going to be doing for the first part of my jelly roll race. So I pulled a basket out. Whoops, I didn't put everything in it. Okay, and I want to put all of my strips that are sewn in that basket. That way the the weight of these strips doesn't skew my sewing on a strip that I'm working on. And I don't have to worry about picking it all up off the floor when I'm done. Well, hopefully, we'll see. So here I have attached all of my strips to something. Some of them are attached to other strips, but most of them are attached to a charm square. So if you're doing a regular jelly roll race, at this point, all of your strips should be attached together. But because I have added this little special twist, now I need to go through and attach all my strips together. And this is where my handy dandy tool comes, well, in handy. So here I should be able to, I'm going to turn it this way, so I can just go through and break the thread in between all of my strip sets. This is way easier than taking a pair of scissors and cutting these apart. I have to admit, whoever came up with this, genius! And the fact that you can use your old rotary blades, even better. I have a whole tin full of them, so I think I'm set for blades for this for eternity. Until, of course, someone comes up with something better. Now, once we get this giant long strip done, we are going to start on the right side of the jelly roll. And this is the end. We are going to find the other end. We are going to put them together and make sure that we don't have any wrong sides inward or just no twisting. Twisting can be a problem. And as you see, everything is nice and straight. So we're going to go back. Now, it is much more cumbersome when you have a whole jelly roll sewn together. You know, then you've got 42 strips end to end, and then if you're like me and you add some mini charms, that even adds to it. So it's a lot easier if you know where your end points are. Now I'm going to sew these two strips together, and I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam. So this is pretty long if you're talking about the full jelly roll. When I was sewing my strips together with the full jelly roll and half a jelly roll and all the little mini charms, I sewed my seams open. So if you pressed your seams after you put all your strips together, your seams would be pressed open. Now here, mine are not, so I will finger press them open on the top and the bottom and sew them open here. Here, I am at the end of where I'm sewing my strips together, and as you can see, it's not open. So what I'm going to do, and what I did, and I will show you later when it's even bigger, is I am going to cut open. You can do that after you're done, or you can do it as you're coming up to that point. Now I have a 2-strip wide set. So I started out with 1 and now I have 2. You can take them to the iron. I am going to finger press them in this particular example. All right, so here is the beginning. I am going to find the other end. I am going to put these 2 together, just like this, just like I did when it was 1 strip. Make sure everything is nice and neat. And I'm going to sew these together, also using a 1/4 inch seam. Once again, I am here at the end where my fabric is folded over. I am going to once again take my scissors and cut this open. Now I have a strip set that is 4 strips wide. So we're going to open it up and we are going to finger press it open. And as you can see, each time I fold it over, the amount or the length of the strips that I have to sew gets shorter. So now it goes from here to here. Once again, here's my end. I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along the edge of my strips. And it will just continue to grow and grow and grow. And that is what a jelly roll race quilt is all about. I've been working on my jelly roll, and we're going to call it a marathon, because my jelly roll quilt, not a race. I have been working on this. Let's see, yesterday I'm thinking 6 hours. Now, that being said, I was at a retreat with friends, so I wasn't racing. But I did sew quite a bit. So when you add the mini charms to your jelly roll, it's cool. It will give it interest. But it does add additional time to your marathon. So as of right now, I am this far along. I think I have 16 rows. And now I'm going to fold this in half, and then I'll have 32 rows. And I'll fold it in half again, and then I'll have 64 rows. And I'm thinking 64 is going to be the final quilt. So let me put these together. So once you get to 8 strips across, then it goes more quickly. Another thing that has added time to my jelly roll marathon is 26.2 miles, I believe, is that I'm using a full jelly roll, which is about 42 strips, and then I added another half because I wanted my quilt to be bigger. So if this is going to be your first strip quilt where you're doing a jelly roll race, then I would suggest use 1 jelly roll. Don't add the mini charm squares and see how it goes. That way you get a feel for how quickly it can be done. So let's see what 32 rows across looks like. I may stop here. You know what? I think I'm going to. Let me pan out so you can see. This is going to be a nice size quilt. So here is my jelly roll quilt. Now I could keep going. Let's see what it would look like if I did. Thinking it would be shorter than what I want. So if I went, yeah. I like it the way it is. All right, let me hang it up here so you can get a really good look at it. So this is the quilt. And if you see at the bottom, it looks like all of my little 2.5-inch charms kind of gathered. I like it. I like the way it turned out. I do want to put a border around it because there's a lot going on. I don't know. I know I want a solid border around the outside. I think I want a solid border. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. We've got a lot of solid, and then we've got these paint splatters kind of in between. Notice how my orange came together? Is that the only place where colors met? Nope. I got my red paint splatter. Those two came together. But that kind of looks like it's it. Isn't it neat how it just kind of falls wherever? You just never know how it's going to fall. So let me know if you think I should use a solid border, which I almost think would have to be white or black, or if I should use a more colorful border. We have a quilt retreat, and by we, I mean myself and Tracy from the Sewing Channel and Di from Sister Chicks. It is in April through May. It is a week. It is in Hamilton, Missouri. And I would love for you all to come and meet the three of us along with a bunch of fun quilters. I will put a link in the description below. Go check it out. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me. aprilscraftroom@gmail.com. I am also taking the trip of a lifetime in September to Ireland. We are going to go visit the Titanic Museum, view the beautiful countryside of Ireland, and I would love for you to come along. I will also put a link in the description below about that trip that you'll never forget. Thank you so much for watching my channel. If you are so inspired, please subscribe. More than 50% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. Now, there's no cost for subscribing. There's also no pressure. If you don't like the thought of subscribing, don't even worry about it. But if you just haven't subscribed because you really weren't thinking about it, I would really like for you to give that subscribe button a little push, because when you push that button, YouTube will push my video out to other people, and that makes my channel grow. Have a great day, eat some chocolate, and be kind to everyone. And come back next week for another strip challenge project. Until next time, bye.